Welcome to Concordia on Air. I'm Michael.
And I'm Paul.
And on tonight's show,
Warner Bros. Lays off 85 employees.
And on Arts and Entertainment, a special presentation.
an interview with Concordia's own Derek Christensen.
All that and more on Concordia on Air.
Ooh, Paul, it's cold out there.
The gentle wind is blowing through the trees as autumn colors fall. It's very upsetting.
It does not feel too gentle.
That's
I'll tell you
true.
that much. Especially today.
Bone chilling.
Oh my God.
Bone chilling.
Bone chilling. Cut through the flesh. It's cold. And I hate to be that guy that says that thing, but it wouldn't be that cold if the wind wasn't ripping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm made very aware of my skeleton, not only from just the wind that's cutting my bones, but the fact it's everywhere. Everywhere I go, I feel like I see a skeleton or a ghoul or a goblin. Why is that?
Well, Halloween's coming up.
I always forget. It sneaks up on you like that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I love this. This is probably my favorite season. I'm a big fan of the in-between seasons. As much as I love Christmas or this kind of hard set, 4th of July, these in-between moments where we get these, in the words of Kurt Mayweather, when seasons change and we've again surpassed September. And that's where we are now. Mm-hmm. We've surpassed September and we're moving. Is it October?
Yeah, it's October.
Nice.
We've entered the transitional period.
Great.
Smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
So ghosts, goblins, ghouls, tricksters, buffoons, all sorts of creatures roam the night in this transitional period in the twilight space between life and death.
Yeah. Every night?
Every night.
Every night of October that happens?
I'm pretty sure. At least I read that somewhere.
I couldn't deal with that. I'll tell you what. My windows are salted. I've got a salt line on all my windows because I'm not necessarily a believer in super paranormal, but
Sure.
if it is real, I might as well be protected.
Right. Well, do you have any garlic there?
No, I don't.
No. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Gotta stay prepared.
I'm going to be attacked by a vampire.
You can't just prepare for one thing.
No.
You gotta keep all your bases covered.
What else? So there's vampires with garlic, demons with salt. What else can I use?
What do mummies hate?
Oh. I don't know, probably water.
Water? Yeah, because
They get all wet, they
Big
fall
soggy.
apart. I don't know. If I was a mummy, I'd hate like Johnny Quest.
Yeah,
That dude was
like
always roughing up mummies.
Colonists.
Yeah. Okay, garlic, water, salt. Or you can put like a cross up.
Yeah.
That helps against spirits. I don't know what else.
Or just a faith symbol. We're multicultural here at Concordia on Air.
Yeah. A faith symbol for other different, like a djinn. If you got attacked by a djinn,
That would be upsetting.
because those guys can get kind of crazy. Well, I hope you stay safe out there with these ghosts and ghoulies. And now on to news.
Welcome to news. I'm Kay.
And I'm Emma. Two leading Republican senators traveled to Carrollton, Georgia on Tuesday to support the state's GOP Senate nominee Herschel Walker, who had been embroiled in a controversy after denying a report claiming that in 2009 he paid for an abortion for a woman who she's also the mother of one of his children. Both Florida Senator Rick Scott, who is the chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee and a major financial backer of Walker's campaign, and Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton spoke at a stop Tuesday on Walker's Unite Georgia bus tour. They made little more than awful references to women's abortion claim against Walker, who has campaigned as anti-abortion. After the event, the senators did not answer questions from the reporters about if they had spoken to the candidate regarding the abortion allegation. Scott reiterated that Walker had denied the allegations.
So we had the homecoming parade this weekend during Concordia's homecoming week, and the parade was held The people lined up up and down the block to catch candy and get a look at some of the eye-catching floats that were made, and that included floats made by Concordia clubs, along with some that supported local organizations like the Gate City Bank. There were vintage and stylish cars, as well as those who also marched in the parade, passing out flyers and candy to everyone watching. So it's safe to say the parade was a massive success.
There were some testy moments on the light rail tracks outside Minneapolis City Hall Tuesday. Minnesotans protesting the city's decision to clear out homelessness encampments were cleared out themselves. People say things escalated after police gave orders to pack up and leave the encampment outside City Hall. Things were pretty intense initially, said protester Kevin McCarran. Several protesters and people experiencing homelessness first moved outside City Hall this weekend after several camps were cleared last week. Eventually, say both sides started talking. Some resources were offered and people moved to the other side of the transit tracks, from City Hall to the outside Hennepin County Government Center. Hours later, people were still outside City Hall. They say they were looking for resources and trying to figure out what's next.
So the Warner Bros. Television company laid off over 80 animators and is planning on keeping 125 positions vacant. Production at Warner Bros. And Cartoon Network Studios plan to be merged together and are calling it a strategic realignment. Viewers are worried for the works of the studios, as both studios have their own specific way of producing their own stories, with Cartoon Network focusing on more generational specials that are original and Warner Bros. Creating adaptations of pre-existing works. The studios plan to create more IP-based content, and it is expected that Cartoon Network will start rebooting some of their past shows, such as the Powerpuff Girls.
Displaced families in Syrian camps are begging for donations on TikTok, while the company takes up 72% of the proceeds, a BBC investigation found. Children are live streaming on the social media app for hours, pleading for digital gifts with a cash value. The BBC saw streams earning up to $1,000 an hour, but found that people in the camps received only a tiny fraction of that. TikTok said that it would take prompt action against exploitative begging. The company said this type of content was not allowed on its platform and said its commission from digital gifts was significantly less than 70%, but it declined to confirm the exact amount. Earlier this year, TikTok users saw their feeds fill with live streams of family in Syrian camps, drawing support from some viewers and concerns about scams from others.
On October 11th, one of NASA's spacecraft ran into an asteroid millions of miles away, which succeeded in shifting the asteroid's orbit. The test was done to make sure they could move the small yet significant rock out of Earth's way, and an astronaut of Apollo, Rusty Schweickart, stated that he's delighted, no question about that, with the attention and priority of deflecting the asteroid. The rock didn't pose much threat to Earth, yet NASA states it was a good practice for if a larger incident involving the threat of asteroids were to occur. And now, an interview with Mikey and Derek.
Okay, here we are, rolling and Olin, King of Calm, Derek Christensen.
Hey, everybody.
I'm so glad to have you on here. You and I get to hang out. We're buddies. We did War of the Worlds together, and now we get to sit next to each other in nonverbal comm, which is a comm class.
Heck yeah.
And you're kind of rolling around and doing the comm thing. You told me earlier about this thing that you did. And now I can't remember. COC?
OCC.
OCC. What is OCC? Well, first of all, what does OCC stand for?
So OCC is the Oral Communication Center here on campus. I'm not a consultant anymore, but I used to consult for the Oral Communication Center, helping IOC students with their speeches, preparation, and just learning how to speak in their class.
Awesome. Are you a comm major, I'm assuming?
I sure am a comm major.
And how have you been a comm major your entire career here at Concordia?
Yes, I had a little bit of swapping around, but staying in comm has stayed consistent.
That's good. And what comm classes are you taking now?
Right now, I am taking nonverbal with Cindy Larson-Castleton, and it's pretty awesome. A few other classes I've taken have been persuasion and public relations.
What other jobs have you had and kind of roles have you had in the comm department? Because I know, you wouldn't be here if you weren't a top dog doing comm stuff. What can you tell me about your comm experience?
So a few other things I've done with the comm department. I've been on the speech team and comm adjacent. I was in the theater production with you of War of the Worlds, and been part of the OCC as a consultant.
The speech team. What is that like? Did you do speech in high school?
Yeah, so I did speech in high school and then continued on. I still try to do a little bit of off-the-wall coaching in the community, and try to also judge speech meets when I can.
And what speech, we didn't have a speech program in my high school, so I've kind of, I've talked to people that have done speech in their high schools and speech here. What's that like? Do you just go and you talk? I genuinely don't know much about the competitive speech program.
Yeah, a little bit. So it's a competitive program in both high school and there's a collegiate speech program. We have an awesome speech team here on campus. And you can do interpretive things such as like reading poetry or play scripts, or you can also do more formal things such as an informative speech or a persuasive speech about a topic you're really interested in.
Huh. And how competitive does that get? I mean, I remember seeing people leave classes dressed up real nice to go to speech meets. Is it kind of sweaty?
It's a little sweaty and real competitive. The Concordia speech team has actually been at the national competition numerous times, and they've even been finalists as well.
Really?
Yeah.
So what is that? Is there like a speech bracket? Like, do you go in and you... See, I understand giving speeches and like doing well, but I don't understand like paired against other people. Like, what is the competitiveness?
So typically you roll up in a room with a few other people who are in your category, you speak, and then a judge takes notes on how well like your pacing is or how impactful your speech is. So
really?
Yeah.
Like your pacing. Oh, I guess we've talked about it in nonverbal about the dressing out. What's a highlight of your speech career?
Back in high school, I won the state speech tournament for prose speaking, which is like reading pieces of books. And then I also had a really good time exploring new speech categories with the Concordia speech team, such as communication analysis.
Oh, I was going to ask what are the categories inside of the speech program? So you said poetry. Are there like new categories inside of, I don't know what I'm trying to ask, like the formatting, because I know there's free-form speeches as well.
Yep.
Do you just get to talk however long you want or whatever you want to talk about, or are there like standards you have to sit inside of?
Yeah, so there's different time limits and restrictions for the different categories, but typically you break it up into three parts. You have interpretive, you have public address, and then you also have impromptu speeches such as impromptu, which is pretty cool.
Well, thanks for talking with us, Derek.
Thanks, Mikey.
Next is a news package with our own Jackson on the greenhouse here at Concordia.
And it's been around for many, many years, way before like any one of us were born.
Both Harshana and Ian have spent a great deal of time in the greenhouse, trying to revitalize some of the more sensitive species and having introduced some exciting additions.
Yeah, so it started this summer, or last summer, in about June. We came in here as part of our neuroscience research, and the pond was a little lackluster, and through a couple conversations with Harshana and Dr. Strand, we started sharing ideas, and I spent a bunch of time working in here on this area specifically for most of the summer, and then continue working on it this school year. So this is kind of, I've got some plants in the rest of the greenhouse, but this is kind of my domain here. In the pond specifically, our filtration system is pictured right behind me here, is a hydroponic system that uses plants and leca, which is a light expanded clay aggregate, as a filter for the kind of a lot of the bigger chunks of just debris in the pond.
The greenhouse is home to a variety of non-native plants and aquatic life, providing a space for unique research and observation.
To be able to like have it be a place that students and faculty and staff can come in and enjoy it in the winter time especially. So now we're trying to sort of make this place more of a, not just for a classroom, but have a bigger purpose.
In the coming months, the greenhouse will open study spaces available to students to use free of charge. This will serve as a tropical haven for students to recharge during the winter months.
All right, welcome
To our special presentation, as promised last week, we were going to have a more in-depth discussion about the Rust news, the news that broke that the production of the movie Rust would resume after almost a year ago next week.
A year ago?
Yep. August 20th, 2021. Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer for the production of Rust, was fatally wounded in a gunshot. They believed that the weapon was cold and were doing rehearsals. And when Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger, believing that the weapon was cold, it sent the bullet through her and injured the director, Joel Souza.
Question just right when we're getting into it. It wasn't a live round, right? It was a blank.
It was believed that it was supposed to be cold, like nothing in it at all.
Yeah, not loaded.
But there's been lots of investigation coinciding with the production of this movie. The same time last year, I believe the Monday before, Hutchins died on the Thursday of that week. That Monday, there was supposed to be a IATSE strike, and IATSE is the union that represents all theatrical and stage employees.
Yeah.
And they were going to go on strike to negotiate for better benefits and better wages. And at the very last minute before, like hours before the strike was supposed to begin, they decided to, the studios finally caved and were like, okay, we'll let this, here's some of what you wanted.
Yeah.
So the strike was averted at the last second, but a lot of productions that were on the lower scale of the financial side.
We lost our visual.
We've got some technical, here we go. A lot of lower budget productions, a shutdown like that can damage the film and ultimately lead to it not being produced at all.
Yeah.
So the producers of Rust thought they were getting out ahead of the potential of this strike and began hiring a lot of people that weren't necessarily a part of the union, not necessarily experienced in the world of filmmaking, especially making a movie with guns involved.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were bringing in their own live rounds. It was reported that the very gun that was used to kill Helena Hutchins was taken out to go shooting cans in the middle of the desert as they were filming in New Mexico in a very
I didn't even know. It was my understanding that the firearm used, they were using blanks, and the first blank, they shot a blank and the cartridge didn't eject, or the shell didn't eject, and it got stuck. So when the second, I mean, now thinking about it, there's no way that could have happened.
Nope.
Thinking about the mechanics of a firearm.
That was the initial speculation.
Yeah.
A lot of people were citing the death of Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow,
Yeah, I was
which
gonna say The
was
Crow.
a result of a blank. There was debris in the barrel of the gun, and when a blank is fired, that's still the full force of what would propel a bullet.
Yeah.
So that debris trapped in the barrel was propelled at the same force it would have from a bullet into his back, and that's what killed him. So there was a lot of speculation. That's what it had sounded like based off of the initial reports. But a further investigation realized that there was very little supervision happening. Hannah Gutierrez, the armorer of the film, later in an interview said, I was contracted to only work 8 hours a week as the armorer, and oftentimes I did 12 hours. But I was largely she said she was largely just a props master. She was hired to do props master work, but she had some armorer training from her father, who was a pretty prominent armorer in the business.
Yeah.
So she had kind of gotten moved up when their original armorer fell through. So
I think this situation is, as I said earlier, I said last week, even if you're doing a small project, it doesn't matter the size. if there are other people involved, there has to be safety measures. And especially a film like this with firearms, there have to be severe safety measures. If a studio is deciding to cut corners and hire non-union workers, there is no reason why there shouldn't be protests and riots, and there should be these standouts. I don't see how anyone in their right mind working for this studio would be surprised that there would be union-based riots and protests, because they cut corners severely.
It's just it's something that you don't really think about it, but looking back at it, you're like, oh, this is a powder keg. This unfortunately was the match that struck it, and now Hutchins' family has to deal with that, and they have dealt with it for the past year, but it seems they've decided to move forward. Her husband and Baldwin and the rest of the producers behind the film have decided to move forward. So we'll see what it looks like, and we'll eagerly await January to see how the news of them returning to work goes.
Thank you for
everybody.
joining us.
We know this was a heavier topic, but have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.